What is going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into a special edition of GC Live with yours truly, Jack Veltri, joined by Wes Mitchell to talk about the college football playoff rankings, the penultimate college football playoff rankings. The big show is on Sunday. However, we're going to learn a lot tonight about South Carolina and where they stand in the eyes of the committee. Before we get rolling, got to ask Wes, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Jack, I'm excited. This is fun for Gamecock Nation. It's been fun to talk about the last few weeks. And, we've talked about it really in the lead up. It was, could South Carolina keep winning? Could they put this pressure on the committee to kind of consider them when it really came down to it? And now, as you said, man, like we still have Sunday, but really tonight is the night that matters. Like you've got to be in the field if you were South Carolina tonight, if you're going to have a chance to be in the field on Sunday. So, all the times we've talked about it leading up, tonight is the night. We're really going to find out if South Carolina truly has a chance to make the college football playoff. And to give them credit, Jack, these last 6 games, they have 100% done their part to put themselves in a position to be in this conversation.
It's funny. I'm watching SportsCenter right now, which is the lead into the playoff show tonight. They showed a graphic with South Carolina, Miami, and Alabama. No mention of Ole Miss in the graphics there on screen with like the strength of schedule, the resume, all that stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun tonight breaking this down. I think if you're South Carolina, you got to feel good about your chances because, like you've said it before, Wes, like they've done all they can do, and they've won 9 games. They are the hottest team in the country right now. But is it going to be enough in the eyes of the committee? And the thing is, I think the ideal spot for them is probably about 11 because if you're at 12, that means you're probably behind one of these other bubble teams, and you're not going to be able to probably jump them during this next weekend here because none of these teams play. The only one that you maybe could fall into this discussion with is SMU, but even if SMU loses to Clemson, I think the ACC becomes a 2-bid league unless SMU just gets absolutely annihilated, maybe like a 59-0 or something like that. But we'll see what happens. It should be I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll see what happens. And I'm seeing Gamecock Central commenting here.
Who is logged in? And
I have no idea. I have
hey.
Kendall, but hey, I am festive. Actually, I just put up my tree today. So jokes on everyone that thinks I'm not festive here. And I have my Bucky's Christmas shirt on. So yeah.
Hey, put your name on it, Kendall. That was probably Kendall, I think.
I would imagine that's Kendall, unless she's busy at work. Maybe it's one of the interns just hopping on and doing
show yourself. But
yeah, I know. Reveal your hand.
Jack, so the thing about if Clemson were to win in the ACC championship, that basically takes one of your spots too. So because right now Clemson's not going to be above you. So because you just beat Clemson. Well, if Clemson wins, they are in, and then essentially that eliminates everything for you because there's just no space at that point. So for Carolina, they have to be 11. Unless I'm completely missing something, they need to be 11 tonight. And if you're 11 tonight, then you're obviously in the projected field as of right this moment. If you are 11 or higher tonight, then you need to pull with all of your might that SMU beats Clemson and completely keeps them out. Because if that happens, then I don't see a scenario where it changes. Like you remain 11. If Clemson were to beat SMU, again, we're assuming Carolina, if they were in tonight, if Clemson were to beat SMU, then Clemson gets a spot, and now it opens up the conversation. Would you take South Carolina as the at-large, or would you take SMU as the at-large? So with all the different scenarios we've talked about, and you've talked about on your shows, and me and Chris have talked about, it really, to me, has like all bubbled down to 2 things. Does the committee like you enough to put you above Alabama, Ole Miss, and, of course, Miami? Because Miami losing was the one thing that opened the door for you a little bit this week. And then if that happens, can SMU just take care of Clemson for you and not not reintroduce someone else into the conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we're getting a few questions about this. The ranking show starts at 7 p.m. on ESPN. You can also watch with us right here. We'll go through the list as it comes out. But I will say, and I know people are going to probably ask, what games do you need to pay attention to? Obviously, like you said, Wes, the SMU Clemson ACC title game, I think, is the only game that you need to be paying attention to this weekend. SEC championship, both teams are getting in. Georgia and Texas are pretty much in. The Big 12 doesn't matter because whoever wins that game gets an auto bid, and Big 12 is only a one-bid league at that point. The Mountain West Championship is essentially a play-in game between Boise State and UNLV. Big 10, both teams are getting in. What are the conferences am I missing here? None of the other Group of 5 games really matter. Tulane, Army, no. Is there one other conference?
Did you mention Boise State?
Yeah,
I was reading something while you were talking.
4. So no, I think I got everything covered. So basically the point is, yes, the other games are important, but like that's just in terms of like a lot of those teams are already going to be in the field. Like
it's in terms of seeding.
Yes, in terms of seeding. Now, in terms of helping South Carolina get in, like Wes said, SMU winning would be great because then it becomes a one-bid league. Like you're not putting a 4-loss Clemson team in that doesn't have any signature wins. Clemson beats SMU. I mean, they're automatically in, but I think SMU probably still gets in regardless. And I think that's where you get to the point where it becomes a 2-bid league, and that kind of eliminates this whole discussion of Alabama, South Carolina, Miami, and Ole Miss. But I think, like Wes said, 11's probably ideal. Anything higher is just a cherry on top. But we're going to see what the committee looks at here. Does head-to-head really matter, or is it more of how you play now versus a time in the season where you didn't have your star quarterback for a short amount of time?
Yeah, and Jack, Chris and I were talking about this earlier. The funniest thing ever would be if the committee just put South Carolina not only in, but just like bumped them all the way up, and we're just like, well, duh, like this was obvious from the beginning. But, I think, does the committee take a little bit of an old school approach, which is kind of, with the AP poll and the coaches poll? And I'm still in this take a little bit from Cole Kubelik, who I really, really like his take on a lot of things. And he was talking about there's still this kind of thought process of if a team wins one week, you kind of move them up. If a team doesn't win, or if a team loses, you kind of move them down from where they were. And it really, and when you're talking about a 12-team playoff, and you're talking about this committee, and you're talking about this being the most important rankings of the entire year, it really should be a reset. It shouldn't be, well, hey, because we were talking earlier today, how far might Miami fall just for losing a game this weekend? I don't really look at it like, oh, how far did they fall? I think you've got to look at it like, who is the best team? Who are the best teams that there's space to get them in? As of right now, Miami losing, at least compared to last week's rankings, Miami losing was really the only thing that happened to open up a space for you if you're South Carolina, or in this case, to open up a space for Alabama, for Ole Miss, for kind of that group of teams that were kind of the last, or you would say like the first 4 out. The only space you have is if they think you are better than Miami because Miami lost. It would have been ideal for South Carolina this past week if maybe a Tennessee would have lost, if a Notre Dame would have lost. Shoot, if an SMU would have lost, then I think SMU would have been in real trouble at that point. But that didn't happen. So now it comes down, there's essentially one spot left. And do they first of all kind of group the SEC schools together, and do they say, hey, these guys are better than Miami? Or do they take the easy way out and just say, hey, we're putting Miami as in, we don't have to deal with all that? Or does it come down to the SEC schools for that final spot? I'm with you, Jack. You mentioned them not showing the Ole Miss graphic. Not to read too much into that. A lot of the national conversation today, though, has really been around kind of some people saying, well, no, they're just going to put Miami in. But then some people really breaking it down to South Carolina versus Bama and who gets in terms of those schools. I think the fact that Ole Miss did not play as tough of a schedule as South Carolina or Alabama, and the fact that Ole Miss and Alabama have both just had some bad losses, at least compared to South Carolina, has hurt them quite a bit. Can the committee just look at it like, who are the best teams, or do they get hung up on the fact that Alabama and Ole Miss beat South Carolina earlier this year? If it's about the best teams, I think South Carolina is in. If it's about the brand, if it's about just putting in who they want to put in, because here's the scary part about it. If you're a South Carolina fan, Jack, they can put in, they could actually, not they're going to do this, but you could pick a team at random, and I could make an argument after the fact and be like, oh, this is why they got in. Like, there is no perfect answer, right? Like, you can make a case. We've seen it all day. All these teams have been making a case online, which has been fun to watch them campaign for themselves. South Carolina has put a great campaign together down the stretch. Awesome video. They busted out a Twitter article.
Gosh. Ray Tanner came out today and made a statement, which is, look, I know people were critical of him not putting one out yet, but I mean, look, South Carolina pulled all its eggs, put all its eggs in the basket today, and we'll see. But again, as the comment says there, 11 is the goal. Wes, I will ask you before this thing gets rolling. It's about 6:57. We got about 3 minutes till the show is supposed to begin. There's no basketball on tonight, so it's not like last week where you got, I think, like Michigan State and some other random team playing out in Hawaii. This is
so annoying.
This is on time tonight. Wes, where do you think the Gamecocks are going to be ranked tonight?
I mean, Jack, I got to just be honest. I got to be completely honest. I think South Carolina should be in, but my gut feel is that they're barely out. That's my gut feel. If I was making the decision, put all the Homer and we covered Carolina, put it all aside, I think South Carolina is one of the top 12 teams in the country. And I think that's I don't even think that's controversial. I think Carolina would beat, not easily, but I think Carolina would definitely beat several of the teams that are currently ahead of them in the top 12 from last week. Yeah. Ultimately. And I don't know if it's going to be Bama or Miami in my head, but my gut feeling is that the committee doesn't put them in. What do you think, Jack? I feel like you're kind of feeling the vibe that Carolina is in.
I'm with you. I think they should be in, but like realistically, and I know we're gonna be haters here, but like it's the cold hard truth. The committee has loved Alabama,
right? Like, we're not hating. We're just trying to be honest.
We're just being honest. Like, we love covering this team. Obviously, we both think they should be in, but the facts are the facts, and the committee loves Alabama for whatever reason. I just think, like you said, I don't think the committee's going to take the easy way out and just put Miami in. That'd be lazy, and I think that'd be such a bad look for them just to write off all the SEC teams and make it an easy job. I think they're going to do the hard work. I just think they're going to put Alabama in. I just think they've done it before. If they could put in Alabama over an undefeated Florida State team last year, what is to stop them from doing it again? We've seen it time and time again, and we'll see. But I would like to see – I think South Carolina's probably going to be 12, but we'll see.
Hey, Jack, real quick, let's try to sync this up. What is your countdown at right now? Because, everybody –
it's about to be at 45.
Oh, I'm going to know before you.
No.
I'm at 20 right this second.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Dude.
All right.
No. Shoot, no. No spoiling in the comment section either. That is.
Well, am I supposed to spoil it? Or I got to react?
Well, no, you have your story to get up. You have your story to get up. I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to you. If you want to tell me. Yeah, pause it for 20 seconds.
No.
Dude, I'm on YouTube TV.
Do what?
Oh my gosh. We'll see. All right. This thing.
Well, hey, yeah, and my wife is tuning in over here. She makes a good point. When they hear it from us, we're going to be delayed if they're watching us on YouTube a little bit. So I don't think I'm only going to spoil it for you, Jack.
All right, whatever. That's fine. I'll live with it. All right, the show has just begun.
So, hey, by the way, the entrance music on this show, like I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, I love the hype. Where's the graphic that says South Carolina in the playoff with a question mark, just like last week?
Hey, Jack, last week when that thing popped up,
That was crazy.
That's when I was like, all right, this is real. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, it was nuts.
It wasn't just like local media,
No,
Beamer. It's like, all right, this really could happen.
Yeah,
like that's when it became real for me.
I think it can happen. It's just, again, any other team besides Alabama, or what if the roles were reversed? Not to get too far off topic, but like, what if Alabama was in South Carolina's shoes?
Oh, dude, they'd be going.
Alabama
they won 6 straight. They won 6 straight.
Oh my gosh! Like, you know how this would go. So let's do the right thing. Let's put in a team that didn't lose to Oklahoma by 24 points. Like, come on! Like, South Carolina handled their business on the road. Alabama didn't. So.
Whatever. By the way, hopefully y'all will keep watching and listening to us on the side, and just have the show on your TV. You can do both. You don't have to. Yeah. Change.
Hey, it's a watch party essentially.
This is a second screen experience
with insider info and reaction.
Hey, here we go, dude. We're there right off the bat. Y'all want me to yell them out or what?
Yeah, go ahead and yell them out.
All right, Memphis is 25, 10-2. They are rolling fast.
I'm so behind.
Army is 24.
Gosh, they're just now throwing them on the screen. This sucks.
Jack, am I ruining it for you?
No, but you have to yell them out.
Okay, all right. Colorado 23.
All right. Memphis 25, Army 24, Colorado 23.
Syracuse 22.
Syracuse 22, you guys. The orange, which helps Miami.
Big win for them.
Yes, big win. Kyle McCord, the Clemson savior.
Illinois in at 21.
All right, that could be South Carolina's Citrus Bowl opponent. Illinois 21, y'all.
I do appreciate that they're just rolling right along. They're not.
Oh yeah, no BS today. Just
UNLV at 20.
All right,
hey, this is fun. This is good. I like this.
Yes,
let's do this every year, y'all.
Yes, every year. UNLV.
Mizzou at 19. That's a top 20 win for the Gamecocks.
That helps South Carolina. That means no A&M though, right? I mean, A&M's definitely out now.
Yep.
Missouri at 19, y'all.
Where does Clemson fall?
I think Clemson probably goes to like 16.
Okay, BYU at 18.
I wonder who's at 17. Maybe you could tell me.
I'll get back to you on that. Clemson at 17.
Wow.
So they dropped from 12 to 17.
Well, if you can drop 5 spots, I would hope you can move up a few spots if you're South Carolina.
All right, boys, here we go.
Oh, boy. Watch them put South Carolina at like 14. All
right, here's 16 coming up.
South Carolina.
Iowa State at 16.
All right, Iowa State looking to get into the playoffs somehow, some way.
Somehow. They're good, though. They've
had a pretty good year.
Great year for them, man.
Yeah. Who do you think number 1's going to be?
That would be the Ducks. All right, Arizona State at 15.
Dude, if they're 11, that'd be insane.
All right, here we go. 14. If y'all hear somebody yell, it's my wife. She's a graduate. All right, they're slowing down.
Oh, God, dude.
All right, here's 14.
This is where they get you.
14, South Carolina.
No way. What are we talking about here? What? 14? Oh, my God. No way.
14.
Dude, what does beating a top 12 team on the road even mean? Dude, what? Throw my reporting hat out the window for a second. This is so dumb.
Ole Miss 13.
Dude, oh my God.
All right, hey, Jack, I've got to get my story up.
Go ahead.
I'm going to pop back on, okay?
What the absolute HE double-L? Are you serious? Oh my God. What an absolute hose job by the playoff committee. Moving up one spot to beat Clemson. Are you serious? That is such a big FU to South Carolina.
By the way, Jack, Miami 12. That means Bama is in.
Oh my gosh. Alabama. That is absolutely ridiculous. So South Carolina, hey, they might not even get to the Citrus Bowl at this point because Ole Miss is ahead of them. That is absolutely ridiculous. What a travesty. Yeah, the hottest team in the country gets screwed over. I'm going to say it. Like, I don't care like if I'm supposed to be unbiased or not. This is the one time I'll actually be biased. It is ridiculous, man. I get it. The head-to-head, it's supposed to matter. But we're also just seemingly going to overlook the fact that Ole Miss lost to a horrible Kentucky team who's 4-8 this year. They also lost to Florida, who Billy Napier was on the verge of getting fired. Absolutely ridiculous. And then Alabama just lost to a terrible Oklahoma team that South Carolina demolished. Again, it's brand over most deserving. And it's absolutely ridiculous that Alabama is getting into the playoff with the two terrible losses they had. Mind you, South Carolina beat Vanderbilt by 21 points. Guess what? Alabama lost to that team in Nashville. And who are they supposed to jump? They're supposed to jump all three of these teams. Okay, maybe they should be at 12, but in my opinion, South Carolina is better than Ole Miss, Miami, and Alabama. I don't like the head-to-head. Alabama lost, they lost to Vanderbilt. They got smoked by Oklahoma. Oklahoma got rolled over in the first 5 minutes against South Carolina. And then South Carolina, as we all know, also walloped Kentucky. So, look, I don't know. 14 is kind of ridiculous. Like, to go on the road and beat a supposed top 12 team, I mean, why even schedule the games? Why should South Carolina even waste their time playing Clemson every year? That's a bad, like, I don't know. Like, at this point, just play cupcakes. Do Ole Miss's schedule. You know, play your Georgia Southerns, your Furmans, your god-awful Wake Forest and other teams in non-conference play. Play the cupcakes and you'll be fine. The rest of the list hasn't come up yet, by the way. Number 9, Indiana. I mean, what else is there to talk about? I mean, this is a South Carolina, podcast. It's just ridiculous. Like, you beat the number 12 team in the country, and you move up one damn spot. What are we talking about here? Boise State's number 10, by the way. I'll try to actually start going through the list now. Like, I'm heated if I'm a South Carolina fan. This is just so dumb. SMU's at 8. No, South Carolina is not going to the playoff. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but like, number 14 is absolutely absurd. And you know what's going to be the crazy part? I swear, if I see Ohio State at 6 or higher, I'm going to be like, what are we talking about here, man? My point of reason is you can lose 50-0 to some random team early in the year and be fine. Or actually, I'm sorry, late in the year. Let's say Alabama lost to, I don't know, Oklahoma like 50-0. Tennessee's at number 7. Doesn't matter. It's okay. It's just so ridiculous. You just beat Clemson. And if Clemson's the conference champ in the ACC, Wes is rejoining us now. I mean, do we change our thought process on who South Carolina should be rooting for this weekend? Or
I mean, it's done, dude. Like,
I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
You're not moving up. You're not moving up from 14 at this point.
Oh my
because
God.
There's no path at this point.
You cannot.
Ohio
State's at 6. Are you serious?
We got
You dropped 4 spots for losing to Michigan. What are we talking about? What is this, man? Oh my gosh. Dude. Hey Chris, what's up, man?
What's up, Chris?
What's up, Jack?
Dude.
Man, Jack is
what?
yelling. Wes looks like he's in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Dude, what? Like, you dropped 4 spots for losing off at home to Michigan, who's not good this year. What are we talking about? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna stop talking. You guys can go ahead and what are y'all's reactions to this?
Chris, Chris, I wish you could have seen Jack's reaction when he. You can go back and look at it. Actually,
I will. That's the beauty of our technology. I will go back and look. So I need to pull up the rankings live in front of me so that I have them. But I've seen the most important part, guys. Right?
Yeah.
Which
so
is
right now you got Georgia 5, Notre Dame 4, Penn State 3, Texas 2, Oregon 1 is the top 5. Just FYI.
Yep. So when they pop up. First reaction, just to kind of roll through it, you pop up South Carolina at 14 and you go, all right, well, obviously we were talking about the teams that they were going to have to jump. And we were mainly talking Miami, Alabama, but we also had Ole Miss in there, right? You knew you were going to have to jump not just one of them, but all 3. And as it turned out, South Carolina got none of that, right? Their credit for beating a Clemson team that last week was number 12 was to move up 1 spot. Ole Miss basically for beating a 2-10, or at that time, a 2-9 Mississippi State team at home was to move up a spot. Miami dropped, but did not drop out. That was the big question, right? Even, take Alabama and Ole Miss out of the equation. You were going to need the committee to look at Miami and look at South Carolina and say Miami's resume is worse. It looks like, and I'll go through quick thoughts on all of them. Miami, it's apparent the committee said they've got 10 wins. They went back to you play the schedule in front of you. And even though Miami's losses are way less impressive, not as quality as South Carolina, it seems like they're hung up on the 3 losses, except for our friends in Tuscaloosa. Now, I'm doing this on the fly, but guys, anybody who was saying they're going to protect the brand, this gives them a little ammunition, right? Because Bama moves up exactly to the slot that they need for beating Auburn, right? So I think our big question was, and look, I keep mentioning the last weekend. They did have to go body of work on this. They had to look at last weekend, but then I think the committee, because this is the penultimate, great word. They used your word, Wes, on the broadcast. Because of that, they then had to kind of step back and say, all right, regular season's over. Let's take a full look at the picture here. And for South Carolina, your hope had to be, A, Miami's loss backs them out, which didn't happen. And then B, you got credit for beating a top 12 Clemson team on the road in the final weekend, and that could jump you over Ole Miss and Alabama. As it turns out, Ole Miss and Alabama were ahead of you in the last rankings because of the head-to-head. And we'll see what Ward Manuel says after the show, guys, to the media, or when he's interviewed by the guys on ESPN. It seems like head-to-head must have reigned supreme for him, just as far as the 2 SEC teams.
Yeah, and guys, so Miami ahead of Carolina as well it's
tough.
They weren't going to drop them behind all the SEC teams, though. If anything.
But who did they beat, Jack?
Exactly. But what I'm saying is it basically flips South Carolina and Alabama. That wouldn't have surprised me to see Miami at 12. That makes sense. I mean, to drop 6 spots, you're right. They haven't beat anyone. They've also lost 2 of their last 3. But, look, I don't know. I think you should drop Miami more. it keeps Miami in the hunt, I guess. But I mean, let's be real. It kind of just feels like Alabama's getting in. As long as SMU wins the ACC on Saturday night, I mean, it's all but a done deal at that point, right? Like nothing's going to change with the teams that aren't playing this weekend.
Yeah, Miami's out.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
like
much.
not just this week. I think they're. Michael says, Miami is not in. Michael, Miami is out because of the way it is.
Yep.
Structured.
Miami's out.
So really, the Alabama is in for now. But if Clemson were to beat SMU, then Clemson would still a bid.
Yeah.
And then it becomes SMU with an additional loss versus Alabama for the final spot. And you've already told us Alabama is better than Miami in your eyes. So Miami's done. So the only team that is out of the field, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the only team that is out of the field as we sit here right now that could still get in is a team in the state of South Carolina, and it is not the Gamecocks.
That's right. And now here's a scenario, guys. Nobody's going to want to talk about this, but just to make sure, I want to make sure I have it right. Number one, if Clemson wins the ACC title, obviously they're in, which would be a hard pill to swallow for Gamecock fans. SMU's sitting there with 2 losses, one of them being in the conference title game. We already know that Miami jumped a couple of SEC teams that had 3 losses, probably because they had 2 losses. SMU's 2 ACC losses will be more impressive than Miami's. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they played an extra game. The committee has said we don't want to penalize people for playing in a conference title game and losing in most cases. We're not talking about the Mountain West, right? We're talking about, SEC, Big Ten, et cetera.
Yeah.
So in that instance, if Clemson wins, now you've got, like, what do you do with SMU? Like, do they stay? Like, where do they fall? Like, do they stay within or do they drop all the way out?
Yeah. Well, it comes down to SMU and Alabama at that point.
That's right. And so I'm wondering
Alabama would definitely, I think, sorry to cutting one off. I think Alabama gets the nod there because
I don't know.
I see people bring it up. SMU, they had their chance to get a quality win over BYU, but they lost. And yes, they went undefeated in ACC play, but as we all know, the ACC doesn't have the greatest teams in there, and SMU didn't get to play Miami this year. So I don't know what you do. I mean, Alabama's got the quality wins. I get it. Like, they beat Georgia and they lost to Tennessee. They beat LSU on the road, which apparently holds a lot of value, but I don't know. I don't think you should be penalized, though, like you said, Chris, for being in a conference title game.
I do wonder, even though I opened up by coming on here talking about brand conspiracy theories, and I'm not really saying that's the case. I'm just saying people who say that have some ammunition right now, right? You're not going to exactly make those people shut up. I am wondering if SMU loses, do they get another spot, and do they take Bama's spot at that point? Miami's close to Bama right now. They're behind them, but they're close. Stack up the resumes of a 2-loss SMU who made the conference title game versus a Miami team with 2 ACC losses who did not. Maybe that's enough if Clemson beats SMU for SMU to then jump Bama, and then all of the 3-loss SEC teams are then left out. That would be kind of a fascinating scenario.
You know what's crazy? Kevin Miller, one of our coworkers, just texted this in our group chat. This is insane to think about. South Carolina jumped more spots for beating Wofford than for beating Clemson on the road. I know circumstances around
I mean, let's be fair on that, though, guys. At least, so when you're on the back end of the top 25 and you keep winning, and then all these teams are losing above you, you can jump. Really, what hurt Carolina was that they did not get enough help this weekend. They needed for an SMU to lose. They needed for a Tennessee to lose. They needed for a Notre Dame to lose. They ran out of space is really what happened. Like that's the kicker. Like there's only so much room for you to move up at that point. And so that's why, I mean, you can definitely, like I said this earlier, Chris, you could just close your eyes and pick one of the teams and be like, Wes, tell me why you picked that team. And I could pick out a couple of data points and be like, well, obviously we put in Carolina because they've won 6 straight. They have no bad losses. They're the hottest team in the country. Or you can pick Bama out of the hat and say, well, obviously we picked Bama because, they have had the better wins. They beat Georgia. They beat South Carolina. You can pick and choose your data points. So I think that's what makes people frustrated with the whole thing. And even though it wouldn't have mattered if Carolina was ahead of Miami because Miami's not in, it's to me a bad precedent that at this point in the ACC, your literal 2 best teams in terms of who made it to the championship are Clemson and SMU. What is Miami's record against Clemson and SMU?
We don't know.
Anybody know?
No, because they haven't played each other.
0-0.
It's
They didn't
crazy.
even play them.
Oh,
How do you get in?
Oh, Ward is talking now.
Jack, you'll have to. I don't have it on anymore, Jack. If he says
I still have it
anything
on behind me,
of
but
interest, you'll have to let us know.
all right, I'm gonna crank it up.
What it came down to is that we evaluate.
You guys can go ahead and talk. I'll pop
You
in.
monitor? Okay.
Yes, I'll monitor.
Chris, what do you think this means bowl-wise for Carolina? I mean, obviously, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves because I think Carolina fans are going to need a 24-hour, like they're going to have to take a moment to grieve at this point.
That's right.
Like, to be fair, like to be honest, after they take a deep breath, it is still a very special season.
Yeah, it is, man. And I think, that's something we'll start tracking more. I mean, that probably means a Florida Bowl, Citrus, Reliant West. That's been the ones that you hear the most about. But it'll be a different picture, Wes. It will. And almost feel like we're starting to give like a eulogy or something. And we shouldn't do that because there's a lot to write about this season. There's a lot to reflect on with this season. And I've got a feeling Shane Beamer, he's going to talk tomorrow on Wednesday for a signing day press conference. I would imagine a lot of the questions are going to be about getting left out of these rankings. And if I had to guess, knowing Shane Beamer, he's going to be disappointed, but he's going to say our season's not over and we've got another opportunity, whatever that may be, right? But it is going to look different. We got to be real. It's 2024. Bowl games are not what they were several years ago. There's a lot of them, and the landscape's changed. And so I'm not reporting this or saying, I'm not trying to speculate, but, there will be a lot of players that don't play in the bowl game because Carolina's got a lot of guys that are going to the NFL. My guess is you'll have a lot that aren't playing. And I hate to say that, but the reason I bring it up is you draw a line between getting in the playoff, seeing these guys have another run all together. Nobody's opting out of a playoff game, right? Versus what you're going to get with a bowl where even if your team gets to a great bowl in 2024, it's always watered down to some degree, some more than others. And so it's very disappointing for South Carolina. And it's very disappointing that, they don't get a chance to continue this thing. Wes, a couple other random notes too, because I know you asked about a bowl, but I'm going to go back to the rankings for just a second. A lot of times we always talk about the committee setting a precedent, right? And the thing that sticks out to me is I just don't know if there really is consistency, right, in what they do. What they're signaling with South Carolina is that the 3 losses mattered. The 3 losses, I guess the head-to-heads against Alabama and Ole Miss, they couldn't get past. And more than that, the rest of South Carolina's resume was not good enough to overcome that. That's what kind of sticks out. They also are signaling that, and South Carolina put this out in their official kind of statement. They're stumping for why we should get in the playoff. They're saying, we don't really care that Lenore Sellers was injured for half a game. Doesn't matter to us. It's mattered in the past in other situations, but it doesn't matter in this one. So, if you're looking around saying this seems inconsistent, you're probably right. And we talked about this thing going in. You're going to need the human element. You're going to need the committee to say, guys, let's throw some of these things out. Let's look at South Carolina in the most favorable light. We believe in them. We think they're one of the best. We're going to put them in. And that just didn't happen for South Carolina, unfortunately.
Yep. And seeing a couple of comments, obviously, on Carolina only moving up a certain number of spots. Again, guys, I don't really look at it like how many spots you moved up or back. At this point, it's just about – it should be about – because the closer you get to the top 10, the tighter things are. Like, you can move up pretty easily if you're winning games and you're outside of the top 25, which South Carolina was to start this whole conversation. When you start getting into splitting hairs, it's not really about how much do you move up, how much do you move back if you lose. To me, it's about the committee. And I don't know if they did this, guys, to be honest. Did the committee take a reset every week, or did they take an old school approach like we have done in college football for years, where it's like, here's the AP top 25. If you keep winning, doesn't matter who you played, you just move up. If you lose, you move back. And the teams that were basically, you could beat a nobody, and then the team in front of you loses to a great team, and you just shuffle the teams on up. And so it kind of does feel a little bit, maybe I'm wrong, it feels a little bit outdated to me. Like, at this point, you have a committee for a reason. There should be a reset really every single week. But knowing that this is, frankly, these are the final rankings. Like, by all intents and purposes, this is the final chance for the committee to actually give an order to things. The rest of it, unless it comes down to that little potential twist there, if Clemson steals a bid, then I think you have a situation where it just doesn't feel to me like they completely reset and started from the beginning each week. But, Jack, what do you have to say, sir?
So, yeah, you brought up the point about Clemson beating SMU. Ward Manuel just got done talking on the broadcast. I'm paraphrasing part of this, but Reese Davis essentially just asked him, for those who didn't get to listen, that what could change with the rankings, essentially. And basically, any team inside the top 12, say SMU wins the conference title on Saturday, and maybe Boise State loses or whatever. Boise State will fall out, but SMU might move up or whatever. Any team that's outside of the top 12, as in Miami, Bama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, it's basically a done deal. Like, he basically just said that the committee is not going to adjust the teams that are not inside the current 12-team bracket. And his reasoning is that they don't have like a data point to go off of for the teams that are on the bubble, meaning like if South Carolina had a game this weekend, you could look at that and use it as your data point. But because these teams don't play this weekend, you don't really have much to go off of to make an adjustment. So point being, South Carolina is essentially done in terms of getting into the playoff. And I mean, I get it, I guess, that you don't have much to go off of to move a team up and down, but I don't know. It's just, I'm just still puzzled by 14. Just, I don't know. But
so, it's interesting, guys, like, and we've had several comments that are funny, but also true, right? Like, EXO, the only thing, don't schedule tough teams. And I mean, that's kind of right.
Yeah.
I mean, now, if you're South Carolina, your losses are to teams in the conference, you know? But so you could say, well, I mean, somebody said take Virginia Tech and Clemson off the schedule, play PC and Newberry, right? You do have to still deal with your conference. The problem for South Carolina being in the SEC is they've got to go through the conference. They have to be more unscathed in their conference than Miami does playing in the ACC. And if you're going to call me an SEC homer, which I doubt anybody in this stream will, maybe some of the stragglers will, that's fine. But go to just the metrics of Miami's schedule. Take the conference names out of it. Just look at their schedule. You could be the most hardcore Hurricanes fan in the world. Miami's schedule is not as difficult as South Carolina's was this season. Not even talking about wins and losses, just the schedule difficulty. So for South Carolina, you are going to play Clemson every year. You're not going to get rid of that rivalry. And sometimes you're going to lose that game because Clemson's a good football program. So you got to build that in. Then you got to play an SEC schedule. And then you have to come out of there more unscathed than a Miami who can play not only a softer schedule, but a softer schedule within their own conference. Because as you pointed out, Wes, they didn't even have to play the two best teams, the ones in the conference title game, throughout the rest of the year. So it's kind of a catch-22. They're telling you, well, your conference affiliation, we don't really care if it's better. You still got to go through and win a whole bunch of games in there, right? And if you do lose some of those games, you know, the rest of your resume, if you're South Carolina this year, wasn't good enough to have you jump Miami, probably just because they lost a couple games. So that's a tough pill to swallow. And some of the actions they've taken this year and some of the things they've said and justifying them kind of point to, if you have a soft schedule, you're probably going to get rewarded for it, right? So that's tough.
Yeah, James here with a pretty good question, I think. Does this slow down a nine-conference game schedule? I think it maybe does, James. I mean, if losses are going to be treated as the end of the world for teams, then yeah, I absolutely think so. If you're the SEC, why schedule? And I know ultimately the answer would be money. That's why. But in terms of college football supremacy and championships, which look at what the SEC did throughout the BCS era, throughout the college football playoff era. You're talking about winning championships. The way in the 12-team playoff to win championships is to get the most teams in. And if you play an extra SEC game, you are guaranteeing that you are going to have more losses as a conference. If those are out-of-conference games, you're not guaranteeing anything. So to me, I think it's an excellent point by James. The amount of extra money you would have to make from that additional game would have to be astronomical in our current setup for you to trade that in compared to teams making the number of teams making the college football playoff.
Yeah. I'm just trying to process. I mean, I don't know what the incentive would be to go to 9 games. Cause look, I mean, so the Big 10,
Money.
Big 12, well, those conferences all do 9 games though, right? Like the ACC does 8, correct? Because them in the SEC only do 8. So
you're getting out of my bubble whenever you talk about the other conferences.
So I thought we're all college football experts.
We are, but
yeah.
Big 10 is 9 now, right?
Yeah, Big 10 I think has been 9. Them in the Big 12, I'm pretty sure just the 9 team, or I'm sorry, 9 games. But yeah, I think this just tells you, like, I've seen some comments about it. I think for South Carolina to get in the future, I mean, they got to go about 10-2, right? I mean, depending on what your losses are. And here's the thing. The schedule remains the same for South Carolina next year. It's just flipped, right? So you'll get Alabama coming to Willie B. You'll have to go to Ole Miss, Missouri. But it's like, what if we're in the same situation next year and they're 9-3 again? They're just going to get left out. So I think you have to go 10-2 or better to get in. And I don't know. And I guess the precedent is now set early on that a 3-loss team can get in. It was always with the 14 playoff, it was always a 2-loss team is never getting in. But now with this new format, it's like, I don't know. It's just, it makes me wonder maybe if a computer system would be better. But at the same time, I mean, the human side of it, I get it. But I don't know, it really just does. If it were any team besides Alabama, I don't think people would have a problem with it. But it's just the fact of we've seen this story many a times before where Alabama has snuck into the playoff and gotten in. And, of course, you know, Alabama's gone on their little runs before. Like, they won the national championship, I think, over Georgia that one year on the 2nd and 26 play where they barely got in. You had Ohio State get in the first year of the playoff. And then, obviously, last year, Alabama got in over FSU. So the committee can be proven right here by putting in a team like Alabama, but it also could blow up in their face to where it's like when trying to think of an example here, like Florida State, the first year of the playoff, they won a lot of close games. They barely made the playoff because they won the ACC and went undefeated. Then they got slaughtered by Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and everyone was kind of like, why'd you put them in? So we'll see what happens. But again, I just think, I don't know. I'm glad the committee didn't go down the safe route and just put Miami in. But at the same time, it's like you're putting in a team that just lost to Oklahoma by 24 points.
It kind of seemed like, y'all feel free to disagree. It kind of seemed like the committee kind of split hairs and said, all right, y'all, yeah, we'll drop Miami. We'll drop Miami out. But we're only taking one of these SEC teams, and it's going to be Bama, right? Like, that's kind of – and now last week's rankings, right, it was Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, 13, 14, 15, correct? I think that's the order it was in.
Yeah.
So the ordering of the SEC teams didn't change in terms of which one the committee viewed highest and lowest out of those 3 lost teams, which again, what that says from the committee is that last week win on the road against Clemson didn't really count for anything because they didn't even.
All it did was move you above Clemson, who you like literally beat.
Yeah. So that's all you got. You didn't even move up over Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So it's just a strange, you know, and Wes, I think you made a good point earlier because there has been a lot of, a team who was 25th moved up a bajillion spots for beating a team earlier in the season. You don't have as much room when it gets condensed in the top 10, top 15. You can't move up that many spots. Typically, you can move down a bunch of spots if you lose. But still, you kind of, I think the hope was, of course, that you could jump those teams because of beating Clemson. But the committee has signaled that game, frankly, it didn't matter, really. It really didn't matter to them. I mean, South Carolina lost that game. They would have dropped a few spots, 3 spots, 4 spots, 5 spots, whatever it may be. But they basically said, we're not impressed. We're not impressed with that win. We still like Bama and Ole Miss better. So,
and I know it was head to head, and I guess we probably need to wrap this thing up, guys, because we're just be talking in circles soon.
Yeah.
There's something about the fact that the Bama loss was a 2-point game in Alabama.
Yeah.
Came down to a 2-point conversion.
Like that was not a neutral site game. It was not a game in Columbia. We all know that part of the problem to me with going head to head as like the deciding factor. And if Ole Miss had played the same schedule as South Carolina, by the way, which they did not, their strength of schedule was a good bit farther back than South Carolina's. And it was truly just down to head. And you said, look, Ole Miss beat South Carolina handily. They beat them at their place. And that's why they're over South Carolina. Go, you know what? Okay, I get it. That's true. But with Alabama, like, this is a team that beat South Carolina by 2 points at their place when we all know home field advantage is a thing. So it's not a neutral site win. It's not a win in Columbia. It's a win with the advantage of being at home. So to me, you have to, if the teams are very close, you have to consider that as well. There's no, here's my final thought. There was no perfect answer. If there was just all undefeated teams and it just lined up, then it would be very easy for the committee. That's not the case. That's never going to be the case. It's truly not an easy job. No matter who they picked, there's going to be a lot of ticked off people, and rightfully so. But to me, how many people around college football that love college football, that watch college football every single weekend, watch all the games, that are national media people, not us here locally watching Carolina? How many national media people did you hear say, nah, I watch South Carolina. They're not a top 12 team. They don't deserve to be in. And how many national media people, the fabric of college football, did you see watch South Carolina and say, I know what a top team looks like. That team is one of the top 12 teams in the country. So can you argue 100 different ways? Yes. But ultimately, they didn't go with the best teams. They went with some other metrics, or they went with the brand.
What were the other metrics, though?
Well, I mean, you did the Alabama-South Carolina comparison. What were they better than South Carolina? Head-to-head would be one, I guess.
Well, apparently they were all in on head-to-head, right? I mean,
which again, a 2-point
they
game,
definitely were.
2-point game in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, and you know, Ward Manuel was very cut and dry the previous week when he was talking about the ordering, which is the same as it is now: Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. It's because of the head-to-head. That's why South Carolina is behind Alabama and why South Carolina is behind Ole Miss. He said it was the head-to-head. So that must be the metric that they went with, because South Carolina bolstered its resume in the last week. So I agree with you. It's not, there was probably going to be some controversy either way. I think Shane Beamer made a good point today. I think it was Beamer. Like, all the different comments are running together, even from coaches. But, you had 4 teams. And, when we had when we had the BCS picking it, well, it's a computer and it's just 2 teams. Like, you're going to screw somebody, right? So, okay, all right, we'll go to 4. You go to 4. Well, look at what happened to FSU. They won their conference. They went undefeated. We got to expand this thing. This is unfair. So then all right, we'll go to 12. Well, you're just expanding it out, right? You put 12 in. Now you're screwing potentially 4 teams, 6 teams, whatever, right? So we could have 97 teams in the playoff, and the person on the bubble that's number 99 would be like, this is ridiculous. I should be in, But it does not lessen the sting for sure when, you are a team that's right on that bubble. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely.
Close us out, Jack.
Yeah, look, South Carolina, 14. I think we're all going to be coming back to these what-if moments. The LSU game with having a 17-0 lead, and obviously the flags thrown in that game were obviously crucial. The what if South Carolina converts to the 2-point conversion? What if they don't run a fake punt on the first drive of the game against Ole Miss? These are all hypotheticals, but South Carolina is pretty much out of the chase at this point, and we'll find out on Sunday where they go for a bowl game. I think it should be revealed sometime in the late afternoon window, and we'll have you covered on Gamecock Central. Chris, Wes, appreciate you guys joining to do this. I know we got a big day tomorrow with
National Signing Day tomorrow, Jack.
Yeah, you want to give a quick plug for people listening?
Yeah, I mean, come check us out, GamecockCentral.com. Chris, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll tell people about the promo special offer. $1 for 2 months. SCAR1's the promo code. I mean, if we're going to tell people about the coverage, Jack, we might as well tell them how they can get access to every single thing that we write, right? So check that out. That'll get you $1 for 2 months, get you access to all of our content. I didn't mean to cut you off, Wes. I was going to have that play in the background for you, but
no, you're good. You seemed excited about the graphic, so I wanted to let you.
I was good graphic.
Yeah.
You
It's a
talk
good deal.
about it. But yeah, we'll have complete coverage, like we said, and that'll be all day, and then reaction after, of course. Beamer talking tomorrow too, so it's busy. Then we got transfer portal already lots of movement there as well. So I mean, honestly, this probably is one of the best times to be on GamecockCentral.com.
Yep, just like Wes said, one of the best times. So that is going to do it for us, for Chris, Wes, myself. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, South Carolina is ranked at number 14. We'll have coverage for you all week long on Gamecock Central. So be sure to stay locked in. Till next time, we'll see you guys then.